Welcome to the 13th Annual Dallas International Film Festival. We're here with Sandy Boone, the filmmaker behind.
J.R. Bob Dobbs in the Church of the SubGenius.
So, obviously this is something connected directly to your family. Can you talk about your husband a little bit and about the history behind this unique church?
Okay. My late husband, we were living in Dallas. Okay. My late husband, is this going to be edited, by the way? Okay. My late husband and I lived in Dallas in the early 1980s. And these are friends of his that he met here. And so he was a founding member of the Church of the SubGenius. And most of the wives were normals. And we had real jobs, and it was just something for the guys to do, and they didn't get in any real trouble doing it. So that's really how it all started. And I've been executive producing, writing in film for over 40 years. So I finally decided I wanted to do my directorial debut, and I called Doug. Hadn't really seen him since my late husband had passed away, and asked him, had anyone done a doc on the Church of the SubGenius? And he said, well, we tried, but there was one called Arise, but only SubGenius would have ever understood it. And so I asked his permission, because not really being from the church. In fact, the joke was, my husband was an atheist, but I was always on the board of the regular church. We raised our kids as Christians. And so Doug's big joke, or Reverend Ivan's saying, is it took a woman, and a Christian to make the Church of the SubGenius film. So it's the joke about it. So.
I love that it's something that started just as kind of maybe a lark even, but it exploded. It did become kind of underground-wise. It's something that, I mean, not just the image of the man with the pipe, but
right.
So much of what the whole concept behind SubGenius, it's filtered into so many different levels of society.
Absolutely. In fact, performance artists, comic book collectors, 78, anybody that just felt outside, that didn't enjoy whatever was happening. It was popular at the time, but even my late husband loved old radios, and he did them, and they were all considered nerds, even. And that was not a good thing then, and a weirdo. And so these guys had so many common interests, and basically every one of these men had master's degrees. Okay, we're not talking, uneducated or stupid in any way. And they were raised in the 1950s, and they were told, you get your education and your life's going to be a piece of cake. You can have the wife and the kids and the job that you want. Well, that wasn't true. I mean, it was Reaganomics, and trickle-down theory didn't happen. And so a lot of the wives were school teachers, or I was in real estate. We were all working, and our husbands with master's degrees were working assembly lines. Mm-hmm. They were not, and they were just like the film network, I'm mad as hell, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to take this anymore. And so at that time, Jimmy Swaggart, a lot of the televangelists, it was real popular in the 80s to have that person on, and he was selling prayer cloths for $10. Well, minimum wage was like $4.55. And so the guys were going, we're just going to start a religion. They knew it was a joke. They never really expected it to take off. But when you charge $1, and then you're telling people, slack off, quit your jobs, it just caught on. People thought it was just absolutely hilarious, and before you know it, they had more members than they knew what to do with. Isn't
it kind of amazing how that mentality of slack off was so inclusive compared to everyone else being slightly exclusive?
That's true. That's true. And then Rick Linklater came along and did
I should just rack my brain too. All I can think of is...
I can't think of... Slacker.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Rick came along and did Slacker, and actually, the Church of the SubGenius was a big group in Austin, and he based those characters off the Church of the SubGenius characters, and so that's why he was so willing to interview with us and stuff, and that's one of the reasons his film got named Slacker. So.
As far as being able to bring it here to Dallas and kind of bring it home in a sense.
Uh-huh.
What's that been like for you?
For me, it's Austin, Dallas. I mean, because the characters were from both areas primarily. But it was so sweet to see Doug so excited that it was actually going to premiere here at DIF with his old friends. And so he came alone last night at the 10:30 showing, but he'll be at the 6:30 showing with all of his family. And he's 65. He is so excited about his grandchildren saying, I really am somebody. I did do something. So yeah, so it's a real sweet situation right now. And it's fun to see how many people actually knew about it and got a kick out of it, got a little jolly over the whole thing. So yeah.
You know, I was curious when I got the screen. I was like, I wonder what the mood of this film is going to be like. Mm-hmm. Enjoyed the whole way through. It was so fun, I guess would be the best word.
Okay.
As far as being able to make something fun, how were you able to accomplish that? Was it always the goal to, we're going to shed light on the history of it, but we're going to make this as kind of tongue-in-cheek, as fun as possible?
Well, how could you not do a SubGenius film and not have it fun? I mean, the neat thing about all these individuals, they're all odd, but they're really, all of them could be stand-up comedians. They're so great at tongue-in-cheek humor. And so it's the one time when they don't feel nerdy, surprisingly, is when they're on stage and they just cut loose, they really don't care. So, and it was really sweet because when I talked to Doug, I said, look, I want to tell the story, and I'll do it in the SubGenius way, but there's so much more. There's things that happened, and these guys were young when they, 25, 30, and a lot of serious things, Columbine, and when humor wasn't so funny anymore, and there were different things that came about when the lady Mary Magdalene lost her child because she was a SubGenius. So I wanted to make sure the truth. I mean, it was all in fun, it was a joke, but sometimes the joke got taken too far and people were hurt by it. And then also, my other objective was to show how cult practices, I wanted to explain cult practices, and then show how cult practices have been used in our politics today, and we're dividing people and pitting them against each other. And so I wanted people to enjoy the film, but very much like Mary Poppins, a little spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. As they're laughing, they're thinking, oh my gosh, this really has happened, and what are we going to do about it to change things?
Yeah, it's almost like we need a revival of it just to awaken people's eyes.
Exactly. And I think people they've taken themselves and their opinions far too seriously. and the most important thing is that we care about one another. And I think that's huge. That's really what I wanted to go about. And no matter what our leaders, they're supposed to be doing what we voted them in to do, and not dividing us, but uniting us. So.
Well, I've got to ask Sandy, with that in mind, where does the film go from here? What are you hoping to show with the film outside of, the Texas connection?
Surprisingly, the SubGenius is known all over the world. Mm-hmm. I show in the film, there's a group in London that have a bar with the bob head on it, and he very excited about it, and it's still there today in Brighton. There's a huge group in Australia. There's a group in London. And there's the Italian Film Festival International Film Festival asked us to come, which I was really surprised. We have an option. They haven't guaranteed it, but they're looking at it. They're very interested in it. And just see what it happens in the film festivals. I don't have a distributor yet. I've had wonderful remarks like from Magnolia and all these different groups that would distribute, but they're going, we can't figure out quite what genre to fit this in. And even at South by Southwest, it was in the Visions, because it is a doc, and does talk about serious subjects, but most of the time they're not really funny. So they're having a difficult time trying to, where do we place this? How would it work? I think, like KLRU, I think it'd be a great thing, because they're trying to attract our nonprofit radio and TV stations are trying to attract younger audiences, and I think this would interest them and give them a way to keep the story going and use their own sense of humor and their own points of view in it.
Well, Sandy, I think that's a great way to kind of sum up what the whole, it does take taking a chance on a film like this.
Yes, it is
needed.
taking a risk.
But thank you for bringing it home to Dallas, and I can't wait to see what a little bit earlier of an audience we'll get from it tonight.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sandy.
it.